Hello and welcome back to VHawks Podcast. Today we got a special one for you guys as we dive in to none other than the NFC predictions, which is none other than the conference of which both of our teams are in.
Wait, you're
Matt,
telling
how
me
you
they aren't in
feeling?
the AFC?
Considering we just did the AFC video and we did not mention our teams, I think they're in the NFC.
I thought we just weren't talking about them.
Um, if that's the case, we might want to change the name of our podcast.
All right. Well, let's name it to the Panthers podcast, eh?
Oh, that'll get us the most having the yeah, that'll give us the most views because they're the winningest team.
Sounds good. Panthers podcast. Let's go.
I mean, they're your Super Bowl pick too, right?
How did you know I was saying 17-0 Panthers? Who needs Patrick Mahomes when you have Bryce Young, the GOAT?
Who needs like Nick Bosa or any of these other players when you can have the Panthers offensive line? Like, come on.
You're telling me I can have a 31-year-old Jadeveon Clowney? Dang, I'll take that all day long.
There you go, man. All right, so basically, they're going to be vying for a top five pick again. But they do have the pleasure of playing in the division they're in, the NFC South, and they get with the Saints specifically. And they have other division losers as their matchups. So I could see a few wins for them. Like two.
I have three,
Um,
so
maybe like four or five as their ceiling is what I was thinking. Um, but
I
yeah,
could
I
definitely
don't think they're
see.
going to be as bad as the Patriots, but they're gonna try and be close.
Yeah, it's the race for Travis Hunter.
Pretty much, yeah. Because they already have their quarterback, as do the Patriots. So
Yeah. So yeah,
there
last
we go.
place.
Last place. All right, not far behind them are the Saints. I hate to say it because I like him, but I do not believe in Derek Carr. Um, I think this team's going to suffer because the cap space is getting after them, and Dennis Allen also has been on the hot seat for a hot minute. And I think we're finally going to see the coaching change. If not midseason, we'll see it at the end of the year this year. I really do not see this team performing. I'm seeing them around 5 or 6 wins. Matt,
6 wins.
perfect. Buccaneers. I mean, I am happy that Baker is getting his second chance. This is a tougher schedule. Um, I don't think they're going to win it back to back just because of all the moves the Falcons have made.
And they've lost a
They could
lot of pieces on defense too. Not meaning to.
ex Yeah, you're good. Exactly. They've lost a lot of pieces as well. I could see them possibly making the 7th seed, but if they're not good enough for the seventh, I don't see them making 5 or 6. Um, like I could see maybe 9 or 10 wins at the most, but I'm thinking more realistically, they're going to win 8 win. They're going to make 8 wins this
Make
year.
8 wins. I'm
Yeah,
actually right there with you.
they're
Uh,
gonna win 8 games.
I could see like definitely Kansas City, San Francisco automatic L's, but like New York, Carolina, Vegas, Los
Hmm.
Angeles. Like you can definitely get some wins out of here. Washington maybe week one while Jaden Daniels is still getting into the groove. I have them getting around 9 wins, 4-2 in conference. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just because I was looking at Detroit, Philadelphia rematch there from the playoffs, Baltimore, Kansas City, San Francisco, the Falcons. I think the Falcons sweep them, maybe. Dallas. There's some tough teams in here, so I could see them dropping to the Raiders possibly, or in your case, the Chargers. But
I could definitely see moving on to the Falcons. It's either going to be Tampa or the Falcons vying for first place. The other two are just going to be in the back vying for that top five, top 10 pick.
yep, exactly. I agree. Tons and tons of additions. The only thing I hate is that how much the media loves Kirk now that he's on the Falcons, and when he was on Minnesota, all he got was crap. and how terrible he is, and he never got the respect he deserves, and now he gets all the respect in the world. So, I mean, I'm just glad we're rid of him because there's no way in heck we were going to pay him that contract. Um, and I would have literally, I don't know what I would have done, Matt, if I'm being honest, if we had paid him that contract. So I'm just glad to be rid of him, even if that means having Sam Darnold for a year. Don't care. At least we're not paying $180 million to Kirk Cousins. Um, but again, like he is the type of guy to get the most out of the offensive weapons. So guys like Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, who was just traded over there. Um, who's the other receiver that they've had? Young guy. Um,
What are you talking about?
they're the Falcons' young receiver who's like in year 2 or 3.
London?
Drake London. Yeah, those guys who haven't really been getting all the love and all the target shares. Kirk's gonna find them. So this offense is gonna unlock its full potential. And the defense have gotten a ton of weapons there, and the defense was already pretty good. So I think this is going to be a top 10 defense, possibly top five, if they can get everything going right. Um,
If they stay healthy
so
too.
yeah, exactly. And so I see them winning 11 or 12.
I have them winning 10 just because I feel like there's going to be some growing pains. You have some tough games. Kansas City, Seattle's going to be an interesting game. Dallas, but you also have a good amount of winnable games. As I said, I have them around 10. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, we'll definitely see what they are this year. Um,
Well,
if everything
we know they're going to
clicks,
lose week 2 and week 15. And I also just realized the Philadelphia curse is Kirk because that's the third time they're at Philadelphia and it's Kirk Cousins.
and a
So
Monday
they
night,
just see Kirk Cousins. And they're like, hey, let's put him at Philly at a night game.
on a Monday
That's what
night,
it's been for like 3 or 4 years, and two of those years it's been week 2, and it's just so odd. So it's just a Kirk Cousins thing. I don't know.
but yeah, I
Anyway,
could definitely see like what you were saying. If this team does click and the defense does shell together, this could definitely be a 12-10, 12 win team just because it's a really easy schedule. Um,
yeah.
Let me ask this, and then we'll move on to division winner, which I think we both say Falcons. Penix, will he play snaps this year as a legitimate number one, or is it just going to be blowouts or say week 18 if they've won the division but they're not playing for anything? Penix
I
gets
mean,
the.
obviously, if Kirk gets hurt, he'll see the field. I
Well, do
think he'll see the
you
field if the Falcons are either trailing big or winning big. Other than that,
do you
the only
think
other
that could be a
opportunity would
scenario
be
though?
if they've wrapped him up in week 18. I don't think there is a scenario unless Kirk is hurt where they're in scenarios where they don't need Kirk.
Or everything collapses and they get kicked out of the playoffs?
Right.
Yeah. Well, Falcons,
Falcons.
on to another great team, the top
Yeah.
two
I
team of
mean,
the
the
conference.
the team that's going to lose to the Panthers in the NFC Championship game. Um, Jaden Daniels should be really good.
Good.
Individually, as a team, not so much. Especially since they just sent one of his weapons to the Eagles for basically nothing. Um, there's been some other head scratching moves with them, but mainly it's from the middle of last season, sending a lot of their players to the Bears and the 49ers. So, it's because of that I see them as a 4 of 3 and 14 and a ceiling of 6 and 11.
I have them as a two-win team.
Sure, yeah, that works. Let's move on. They're gonna do nothing. That's the summary. We're taking notes from last AFC's video. We're just gonna make it shorter if we agree and make sure that if bad teams, we just kind of say they're gonna be bad. Giants. I liked their wide receiver pick. I honestly think it should have been a quarterback or an offensive lineman, but hey, um, hey, it's a pick and it's on offense. And then Daniel Jones just threw 2 picks the other week in preseason. Granted, one of them was to Surtain, so I guess it's not terrible. Um, so I really don't know, but he just hasn't looked good. I'm really hoping that I don't eat those words week one. Um,
400 yards, 3 touchdowns,
so
50
don't
rushing
forget we're
yards.
the reason why he has that contract.
You're
He
going to be the
balled out
reason he gets
against us
another
twice in
contract.
2022. So, um, but with Brian Flores' defense instead of Ed Donashell's or Donna let you score, um, we should be a lot better. But anyway, with the Giants, I'm thinking anywhere between 2 and 6. That was my floor and ceiling.
I have them as 2-15, but they definitely did get some defensive line pieces. They might have a top 5 defensive line, but the rest of the lineup's just bad. Do you predict, or let me ask this, will Daniel Jones be the starter for the Giants in 2025?
Mm, yes,
Okay.
because this quarterback class coming up, not good.
Unless they got Sanders.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be good enough. But then again, the Panthers and the Patriots won't take them. But if the Commanders have a pick above them, they might trade it to another QB needy team. Or if the Saints really fail or trade up, that's who might get them. So, anywho, the Eagles. Um, honestly, I see this as a 10 to 12 team. Um, I think they've got the pieces still. They were fraudulent last year, especially towards the end. Um, obviously losing big pieces in the offseason, but also drafting really well yet again. Um, I think that they kind of stayed the same and hopefully have figured some things out with some coordinator changes. Sirianni's on the hot seat, and he seems like the type of guy who responds well to criticism and comes back and smacks it in your face. Um, if that's a definition of responding well. So think they're gonna be a good team this year. I think they'll win 10, 11 games, something like that.
Also, if their offensive line can be good again and Saquon can be healthy, that could be lethal. AJ
Yep.
Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon.
Mm-hmm. And Jalen Hurts as an RPO. Again, like another deadly team. If you're looking for good fantasy picks, guys, round 3, Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. That's where you should be looking.
Well, for the Eagles, I have them going 11-6. And then for a team that might need a quarterback next year, the
Oh yeah, there
Cowboys.
we go. Well, I thought they had one of the best quarterbacks in the world, according to the media and according to Jerry Jones.
Until he tosses him on the street and then calls him scum.
Yep. Speaking of which, they signed the huge contract with CD Lamb, but not as huge as a certain team we'll get to later on. Um, but good for them because that's basically their entire offense now because the aging Ezekiel Elliott at running back is not going to be the Ezekiel Elliott from 2017. So,
This
um,
is a bad
with
team.
with that being said, the cycle must continue. So since we said 10 or 11 for Eagles, I said 9 or 10 for the Cowboys. It's just going to be one less than the Eagles, whichever one it is. Um, and the Eagles will continue to win the division because of the eternal cycle of a team cannot repeatedly win the
Yeah.
division.
I have the Cowboys as 10 wins, but I could definitely, well, when we go into the awards, you'll see where I'm going with that. I could see the Cowboys being a bad team this year. Not as a
Um,
top 5 pick, but like low teens.
I think mid would be worst. I could see them, but It's all
like
good.
they
It's all good.
lost a ton of pieces, and the only piece they signed was Eric Kendricks.
Yeah, and Bland got hurt as
Yeah.
well, but I mean, I don't know. I still think they'll be at least mid, but we'll see. Doesn't
Also,
really
Trey
matter. They're
Lance
not going to
sucks.
make any noise anyway.
I think we can officially say Trey Lance is a bust.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Five
My
interceptions in a preseason game.
my my dad was trying to get us to take him or whatever last year or some crap like that, and I was like, nah, I've seen enough. And now I'm very happy I can prove him wrong. So anyway, we already picked the Eagles to
Yeah,
sum up. So it's funny, Matt and I are agreeing on a lot of these division picks. Um,
so far.
it kind of makes me want to switch the one back to the Jets because I don't think we have any differences
Yeah.
as of right now. Is that right?
Uh,
Because we both picked the Chiefs, we both picked the Ravens, we both picked the Dolphins as of right now, and we both picked the Texans.
yeah,
And now we both picked the Falcons and we both picked the Eagles.
yeah.
So we'll see what it's like at the end of this. Okay, if at the end of this we have all the same division winners, I'll switch it back to the Jets.
I can promise you we won't.
Okay. Um all right, so moving on to the West. We will do all except the Seahawks because we're going to talk about our teams later, or did you
Yeah,
want
we'll
to
just
go
go
ahead
to
and
the
do that?
Seahawks at the end of this. That's how I vote. But just
Okay.
go.
All right. Well, the Cardinals have a tough schedule, but they have Kyler back with Marvin Harrison Jr. That should be an interesting team. Um, I still don't see them winning a ton of games. I think they're a 6-win team, somewhere around there. Um, but I think their games are at least going to be interesting to watch.
Their starting tight end is Trey McBride.
Yeah.
All I gotta say. 6-11.
I mean, okay, so exactly it's exactly what I said.
I was looking at their depth chart.
But it was just funny because I said that I see them as a 6-win team, and you're like Trey McBride. That's all I gotta say. They're 6-11. I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. But okay.
I'm
Anyway,
just looking like I feel like this team's improving slowly.
oh yeah, they're doing the sluggish rebuild.
Yeah. And yeah, they're losing more pieces than they're gaining, and it's just bad. It'll be
Yeah,
fun to watch Marvin Harrison though, but that's kind of it.
yeah, and Kyler Murray back as well. Yeah, I think it should be interesting. All right, here's the Rams. This is a tough team for me to predict, just because the Rams were a good team last year, and I think they're still a decent roster. But as far as the competition they have to play, I don't know why, but I'm not as high. I'm not very high on them. I see 8 wins. I don't know if that's bad, but Matt, you gonna make me feel somewhat better for lowballing them like that?
I could see him as 8 wins, but I could also see that offense just going for number one in the league and being like 12 wins.
Okay, so somewhere around there, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
I'll get on board with that. Yeah, I mean, because again, Cooper Cup's back, so I think that's part of the reason. But also, Stafford is injury prone now because he's older. So that's if that happens, then everything kind of tanks from there.
Also,
So
what is left on that defense?
exactly, because Aaron Donald's gone. So like that's tough too. So that's why I was like bringing them down to 8 because I started with them at like 11 wins, I think, then brought them down to 10, and I was like, nah, I really only see 8. And so I feel like I'm lowballing them, but I don't know.
How did Jimmy Garoppolo get suspended?
Performance enhancing drugs.
Oh, okay. Oh, Tyler Higbee's out. Their left tackle suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, this roster's been depleted.
It has been depleted, but they've still got weapons.
Though I recognize like none of these names on defense.
Do they not still have Jalen Ramsey?
Tyler,
Or is he on the Dolphins?
he's in the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's been there like for over a year.
Yeah, I forgot. Oh well.
Also, finally, the demon is dead. Not dead, but gone.
What demon?
Aaron Donald.
Oh, I was gonna say he's not dead. He just retired.
Yeah. Well, football terms.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll like that. So
It's like Patriot fans with Tom Brady.
yeah, he's finally gone. The
He's
bad
he's
man is
alive
gone
and
now.
kicking, but that was a funeral procession.
Yeah.
Well, on to the 49ers.
All right. Um, I'm gonna try and sum this up quickly. 13
Ayuk,
and 4. Enough said.
Ayuk, 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 Ayuk. That feels like every news story for the past 3 months.
And I'm done with it. I would not like our channel to be an Ayuk trade rumor channel. So here's what I'll do to make it simple. With Ayuk 13-4, without Ayuk 11-6.
I have them 10-7 without Ayuk, but I could definitely see 13-4. Um, yeah. I feel like this
Okay.
team's gonna go through another um, Super Bowl hangover. Like Greenlaw still out.
Yeah.
I just feel like this team's gonna go through some injuries because for the past couple of years, it's been like one year they're really good, the next year they're just filled with injuries, then they're really good, then filled with injuries. And now that they've gone to the Super Bowl, this will just probably be another year gone to injuries. So yeah.
I agree.
Where do I start?
So we're not saving it for the end. We're just doing it
Nope,
like
we're
this.
just going in order.
Okay, sounds good. I'll let you go.
Where do I start with this damn team? Nwosu's out 2 to 6 weeks, sadly, but we brought in a linebacker. Forgot what completely forgetting who the name was, but we brought in a back or linebacker from the Jaguars today in a trade. Linebackers could get a little scary with Dodson and Baker, just making sure that they are ready to play. Um, Baker's been dealing with some health issues, so Knight might be potentially the week 1 starter, but hopefully we're able to get Baker back and then Nwosu back and healthy. Um, Leonard Williams hoping another year in this system. Very excited to see the scheme. Seattle fans, we've been stuck with Pete Carroll's scheme for the past few years. Legion of Boom, it was good just because we had the players for it. Past few years, we just haven't had the players to be able to handle like the just kind of the islands and spots that you get in where it was really determined on the player doing his job, and we just haven't had the talent there to do it. Mike McDonald comes in, whole new scheme. Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon another year under their belts. Heard a lot of good things about Witherspoon's from camp. Um, Brian Murphy, been hearing good things about him. Um, Excited for this defense, but really going to determine on the safeties and the linebackers, and then also if the defensive line can come together. A little worried about the offensive line. Had some issues during the preseason. Hopefully, once we get Abraham Lucas back and just get the line together and getting some reps under them, hopefully that will gel together. Couple of injury issues with Noah Fan and Pharaoh Brown out. Not sure about their health going into the season, which is a little worrying. But when you have DK Metcalf, Bobo, Eskridge, Lockett, Chenault, JSN, Derek Young, we have enough receiving threats there where if we don't have the tight ends for a week or two, we'll be okay. Kenneth Walker Apparently, he's been doing really well in camp, and we haven't seen him yet in the preseason, or we didn't see him in the preseason. So excited to see him. And with Grubb as our offensive coordinator coming from Washington with that explosive offense, I'm excited to see what he can do with all these weapons. It's basically a treasure hoard of speed, weapons, and physicality that I'm excited to see this year. Heard good things about Geno in camp. The one drive he came out started off a little shaky with the one pass to DK where he just kind of overthrown him. Next four passes on the dot. DK Metcalf mossing a guy, and hopefully we can see DK actually using his body for once. Um, we've gone through several years of Seahawks fans pleading with him like, you are a physical specimen. Please, for the love of God, just moss people because they can't stop you. And he's always been. It's one of those things, especially like when you work with guys like Lockett, where they're speedy guys, not too physical. You play around them, um,
You're going to
playing
be
might
molded to their skill set.
might mirror them. So seeing that gives me hope that this will be the year that we see DK become that threat that we know he is. And if Geno can stay healthy and get back to where he was 2 years ago, could be a really good year, could be a really bad year. We'll see y'all in week 18. I could see this team going 12-5, but I could also see them going 8-9. So it's really going to depend how quickly can that defense gel together, and can Grubb use this offense the way that a lot of Seahawks fans believe it can.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good because I said your record's 9-8 to 11-6. So just add one and subtract one, respectively. Um, yeah, I mean, y'all have looked great in preseason, and y'all have the wide receiving weapons for sure. Um, I don't know how the defense is going to stack up against some of these teams. I know that you guys have corners on lockdown, but I'm not sure about the run defense
Yeah.
exactly because you're gonna be heavily tested throughout some of these games. You've got obviously San Francisco twice is always going to be a threat to you guys. You got Miami, you've got Detroit, you've got Atlanta, you've got Buffalo now that they're starting to use Cook. Um, like you've got a lot of teams that are gonna run the ball on you, and that's gonna be a real test to your defense, as you said. So on the bright spot, your defense isn't going to be tested till week 3, so that's good. So you have a few games to gel together. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think you guys are a playoff team for sure.
And it's a pretty
Do I
friendly
think?
schedule as well. Now, a lot
Yeah, I
of
mean
it
the schedule's not too bad.
we're gonna have to stack up a lot of wins early, and if we're around 500 by the bye week, that could be more of an issue. Um,
Yeah.
because the latter half of the season, those are going to be our most difficult games where we had the same issue last year. We didn't really start off as well as we needed, and then later in the year when we lost,
Hmm.
we missed out on of the playoffs on a tiebreaker. So
Well, at
this
least you have a
year,
free win against the Vikings.
well,
Well, it's
but
because we're visiting you guys. So
but yeah, like Denver, New England, we need to take control of those games early. Just do not even play with those games. Excited to see New York again. A Daniel Jones, would you like another sack? We'll give you 10 more or 11 more. Um, Atlanta, but like Buffalo, we get them at home. We get the Rams at home
oh,
afterwards.
oh, you just jinxed yourself. Y'all are losing to Atlanta.
Shut up.
It's
Um,
at Atlanta too. You should not have said that.
I said it'll
Kirk
be an
Cousins is gonna
interesting one.
nice y'all up, man.
Though luckily we do get our bye week before we have to go to San Francisco, so that'll
Hold on,
be
I just have one more thing to say about the Falcons. Kyle Pitts is gonna go for 3 touchdowns, 180 yards.
Hell
Week
no.
7. Just saying.
We'll see if Kirk Cousins makes it to week 7.
Wow, hate on the
Always,
man's injury history. All right. Even though that was his only injury he's ever had in his career.
always starts with one.
We'll see.
Well, I want to say Seahawks win the division. I did give them 12 wins.
But it's the 49ers if they stay healthy.
Yeah, it's the 49ers. You might as well go ahead and switch your pick to the Jets because I think we're gonna have the same one afterwards.
Yeah, so okay, so so officially here, but it's now going to make our other video somewhat invalid. I will now have the Jets winning the AFC East, and I would just like to remind Matt that this is purely on Switch based off of the fact that we would not have a differing division otherwise. Um, so he should not make fun of me too much or at all if the Jets start doing poorly because I had the Dolphins originally. Just would like to just drop that there.
Nah.
I'm editing it in my history. Um, Here we go. Jets.
So
But
have you
yeah,
heard this guy called Caleb Williams?
yeah,
Yeah. Who
and
decided
we
to give the number one pick so many weapons?
exactly. I'm just looking at week 2, uh, for Caleb Williams because the only thing I'll say bad about the Bears besides their defense is,
The
have
O
you
line.
seen their offensive line?
They only have one left guard.
Exactly. So week 2 is gonna be a test.
It's gonna be a fun game though. If that game's like actually competitive,
Actually, that yeah, and that's the Hall of Fame game again. That's interesting.
only bet the here's the thing I hate about the Hall of Fame game. I wish it was another like opening game on opening weekends where it's
Mm,
basically like picking two teams and tossing them into the neutral site stadium,
yeah.
like what they're doing with Brazil this year. Because if the one thing I hate about the Hall of Fame game is nobody plays. It's all like the fifth stringers at best.
Hmm.
Like you never see any of the rookies, you never see any starters. And on such a special night, it deserves more than that. That's my soapbox for this episode, but moving on.
Hey, it's perfectly fair. Um, this is the first year the Bears could be good. In a
I also
while.
said this
So
last year.
I mean, I did because I believe in Justin Fields, and at least on the Bears I did. Um, I don't know about the Steelers. It just seems like Steelers is the new Bears where quarterbacks go to die. Um, so I'm not sure anymore, but I do know the offensive line sucks, but I know they've got this is the best situation weapon wise a Bears QB has ever had. So I mean, at least in this century. So I mean, I see them winning against Tennessee, and then Houston's going to be the real true test. Um, I think they're a 10-win team and probably are going to make playoffs as a wild card. But
We're pretty close on
um,
that. I have them 11-6 and 3-3.
there you go. Um, because yeah, I mean, the only definite loss I would give them, or definite losses, I would say San Fran and at least one against Detroit, and
Yeah.
actually probably both against Green Bay, just because they haven't won in Green Bay in forever, or
I'd
against Green
probably
Bay in forever.
give Detroit both of them, and then they lose one to Green Bay.
Interesting.
And then Jacksonville could be interesting on that Sunday game.
I don't know why
Lance
you're
could
so
be
high on Jacksonville, but all right. We're gonna see. Change that pick. Or maybe we'll
No,
have a competition of who's going to be
it's
second,
too
and
obvious. It's
we'll
obviously the Texans.
maybe we should have a competition to see who's going to win second in the AFC South since we're so different there.
That's fair. Houston, that's probably an early loss. It's probably going to be a close game, but I feel like um, at Houston on a Sunday night, CJ Stroud has had a year. Um, and then a lot of these other games, Rams might, because Sean McVay loves going against rookie QBs. But there's also just a lot of, like, especially with them being the worst in the division, you get
Hmm.
a lot of easy games, especially against like a team like Washington. Arizona could be interesting with Kyler Murray versus Caleb Williams, but it's going to be a game with no defense. I can say that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And hey, I'm just excited because I have zero expectations this year. So, spoiler alert, I get to just say all my division rivals are going to be great. And then whatever happens, I can just enjoy the ride.
well, speaking of Green Bay,
All right. Well, um, the people that wear the jerseys that look like something I put in the toilet from my own body. Let's see.
what the
What
hell, Tyler?
You can't tell me that their jerseys do not look like piss. I just didn't know if I was allowed to say that on YouTube, but I probably can. So
Just
that's
keep.
what their jerseys look
Also,
like.
forgot to say this. Malik Willis is now a Green Bay Packer.
I can't wait for if he ever has to play. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. If you want to talk about Trey Lance being the worst drafted quarterback, there's second place for you.
Well, Trey Lance was a what top 10 pick. Willis was
Yeah,
only
Malik
third round pick.
Willis was where. Hold on, I need to double check this. When was?
You're talking apples to very decomposed oranges here, man.
Oh yeah, he was the one who fell to third. That's right. He was supposed to be a first rounder. That's what it was. Yeah. Well, anyway, he's not looked good at all. So, but anyway, going back to record predictions, I have them at 12-5.
11-6.
Cool. Um, yeah, I mean, okay, there we go. Perfect. 14-3, highest record I have predicted for any team.
13-4.
The one time I go to 14-3, you go to 13-4. That's funny. Okay, yeah. I mean, honestly, the Lions and the Niners are the best teams in the NFC until they're proven otherwise. So, all right. Um, the Vikings. Well, I was excited for Darnold to kind of just do whatever the heck he wanted to do for a few weeks until JJ McCarthy was ready. Then it turned out JJ McCarthy looked great week one or of the preseason and was going to be like, okay, cool. Whenever he needs to jump in, he can jump in and maybe pull out the win for us. And then he just has to go get surgery to be out for the season. So that's great. Um, at least Jaron Hall is looking great again. So just has to get past Nick Mullins. But we'll see what happens there. Or Darnold could just play well the entire season because he finally has a chance. I honestly don't know. Like I told you, Matt, months ago, this team could go 3-14, or they could go 13-4, or anywhere in between. Like I honestly don't know. If Darnold plays poorly, they're going to win 3 games. If he plays out lights out because we have all the weapons, we could potentially be a division winner. I don't know. I honestly just am excited to watch the ride. And Yeah, I have us going 9-8 just because, I have some optimism for this year. Uh, Jalen Naylor, has looked great in preseason, and hopefully we'll actually get to see a season of him with the team. Because he's actually a very potent weapon we have that we just haven't gotten to use in a while. And then it looks like we might even have a wide receiver four in Tristan Jackson, who scored a touchdown in every single preseason game this year and has just looked amazing. Uh, so loved our wide receiver depth. Um, we just lost Dalton Reisner to at least IR. I don't know how long he's out. Details haven't really come out about it yet, but he's one of our guards, so we'll have to hope Ed Ingram, who by default wins that guard spot, is up for the task of playing right guard. Um, and let's get into some of the transactions like you did with the Seahawks. So first of all, I just love mentioning this as much as possible because it pisses off Packers fans. We got Aaron Jones in the backfield. And I don't even care how he does this season. Like, obviously, I want him to do well, but even if he doesn't, it made Packers fans angry, and therefore it makes me happy. So, love that he came over. Ty Chandler's still our RB2, and we finally started using him last year, and he did really well. So I feel confident in our running back room. Sam Darnold's on a very cheap deal for 1 year. And he was just to get us so JJ McCarthy can sit and watch. And by default, he's going to sit and watch anyway. So it's what I wanted. I didn't want JJ McCarthy to go out there early. So very happy with the QB situation. Because again, the alternative, paying $180 million to Kirk Cousins, heck no. So thank you very much. And then we ended up doing the defensive end swap, Daniil Hunter for Jonathan Grenard, who's basically a much younger and so far less what am I gonna say? Less deadly than Daniil Hunter. But on the bright side, we're getting younger on the defensive side, and he could have a chance to do really well here with Brian Flores' defense. We also got Andrew Van Ginkel for as an outside linebacker, and he's worked under Flores before and is excited to get back to it. So they've got chemistry there. We also got Blake Cashman, who is a Minnesota Gopher, and he did really well with the Texans. To kind of help our linebacking core. Jordan Hicks left, but he's been aging out for forever. He's probably going to retire next year. I would imagine. Um, because he's 32. That's crazy. But Blake Cashman should be very good for this defense. We obviously drafted Dallas Turner to be the other to be another edge rusher in there. So we have got edge rushers for days with Patrick Jones the third, who may or may not get traded before the first game of the season. Um, I was excited to watch Mekhi Blackman, and then he tore his ACL, so that sucks. I was excited to watch Kyrie Jackson, and he gets hit in a car accident and killed with two of his high school teammates. So honestly, the season hasn't even started yet, and I'm already filled with sorrow. So, um, you know what? Honestly, screw the 9-8 prediction. I'm actually just gonna predict 3-14. Um, I'm changing my official prediction. It is 3-14 for us because we've already started the suffering. So why would it not continue? Because we're Vikings. We signed Jihad Ward. We got Shaquille Griffin, a familiar name for Matt, part of the Legion of Boom. We also got Stephon Gilmore. Took a little longer than I would have liked, but we finally got another veteran, and I'm hoping that Byron Murphy can stay in the slot because, oh my goodness, Matt, it is so weird how he can play amazing slot cornerback. But then if you put him one on one against somebody or even with safety help, he gets burned by every single receiver he ever plays against on the outside. It makes no sense to me. Um, Dwight McGlothern, we picked up later after Kyrie Jackson passed. He's a former teammate of Kyrie. He's been looking great in preseason, and I think he is a lock to make this roster at this point. Um, we got a few defensive tackles late in the draft and through some signings, and I think that Levi Drake Rodriguez being one of those UDFA, he has looked amazing for defensive tackle. I think we could see him in there mid-season, maybe even early on. Um, and I forgot we still have Brandon Powell too, who was our wide receiver 3 or 4 last year. So again, wide receiver depth is amazing. Um, we beefed up some of the offensive line a little bit. Obviously, we beefed up the defensive line, linebacker. Like we've got a lot of positions that have just gotten better. Like the only thing that's really gotten worse is QB. So I mean, we'll see how this ends up turning out. Like I said, the expectations for the Vikings at this point, because of all the bad stuff that has happened to us, the expectations are kind of not there. And I kind of like it that way because if we end up coming out of the gate swinging and Sam Darnold's like, hey, we're playing a lot of the teams I used to play for, like looking at San Francisco, the Jets. We don't play Carolina this year, but you can somewhat count at the Giants as a game because it's the same stadium he played in as the Jets. So, he's got some revenge games early on there, and I think there's some defenses in here that Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, all of our receivers can go off against. So I think it'll be interesting, especially since we might have a run game. But again, after all the bad stuff that just seems to happen to us, I'm expecting week one, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Sam Darnold to all get hurt at MetLife, which makes sense because it takes 3 legs every time. So and after week one, we're kind of just going to fall off and um, win 3 games somewhere. So maybe we'll win that Giants game. We'll steal one against the Packers just because, and then we'll steal one. Where do we steal one? Bears again? Sure, we'll do that. There's the 3 wins. I'm kind of done just because I hate how much we've suffered, and or by we I mean Vikings fans. Um, in the off season, and we're still not to the regular season, and kind of just done. And I've learned my lesson not to get my hopes up, even though we look like a better team in all aspects except QB. I know that once you get your hopes up, they're going to be dropped down even harder. So I will not. I refuse to get my hopes up. 3-14, Matt.
I have y'all at 7-10. I feel like you're gonna be able to get some wins out there. New York, I see you getting a win. I feel like Aaron Jones being fully healthy after an off season. Uh, and the wide receivers, maybe Tennessee, maybe Jacksonville, maybe Indianapolis. You might sneak a game against Detroit if you find them, like especially off the bye week. Maybe Atlanta for a revenge game. Yeah, there's probably 7 in there somewhere.
Probably this emoji is an accurate response of where how I feel, but it's all good.
There's no
Hey,
emoji, Tyler.
I put it up there. It was showing. Hold on. There you go. You see it now.
No.
It's on my name.
Do it again. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Um again, like I think I could make the statement that the Vikings have had the worst offseason in terms of luck, and I don't think anyone would dispute that. Like would you say any like I mean literally we might win it alone with Kyrie dying. But like
Oh, that's kind of an unfair.
exactly, we get an unfair advantage with that in terms of the most
If we take
um
away the
first.
tragedy,
Exactly.
uh,
And then we just had a ton of injuries as well, including JJ and like we lose our rookie quarterback as well. So I mean, I feel like it's fair to say that even without Kyrie, but we can't forget that. And But it's funny because it comes after what arguably could be the best offseason ever. Um, because like I said, everything except QB got better and we got cheaper and younger in pretty much every aspect of the game. And like on paper, this team should be amazing. Like Sam Darnold just has to play average. Like if he can throw for one more touchdown than interceptions, I think we win more games than we lose.
At least you aren't the
But
Cowboys.
yeah, that's
We're
true.
all in, baby. All in.
Yeah, they feel like they're all in every year. They only have CD, you know.
Well, no,
Um,
Tyler, you know what I'm talking about. Jerry Jones went into this offseason saying we're all in.
oh yeah, and they did nothing. Yeah.
The
No,
only
like that's
player
what I'm
they
saying.
signed
Like
was Eric Kendricks.
we made all the moves. That's exactly what I'm saying. We made all the moves. We were feeling hyped as all get out as Vikings fans because we're just like, this team is going to be so deadly. Our future is so bright. Then we get the tragedy and all these injuries on top of it. And it's just like all the sorrow. But like I said, next year should hopefully be amazing because, JJ McCarthy caught it at the right time. Should be a good time to get that injury. He'll
Yeah,
have a lot of time to recover. Versus getting it mid-season or getting a lot worse because it looked like he kind of just ran on it or like slid on it differently. It wasn't like a bad injury if you want to take it that far. Like I don't know the right words to use there, but
it really
he just
sounded
had
like getting this
yeah, they
procedure
said
instead of just
soreness.
clipping it is the best way to go for his future.
Yeah, they said it was soreness, so it wasn't even a terrible thing. And then they could have just trimmed it, but they were just like, let's just go ahead and do the whole procedure, which is better, exactly. And so it also frees up a roster spot for us. Um, so it's like, and it just makes him so he just sits on the sideline and watches, and it's good because he comes in every day asking questions, and that's exactly what a rookie should do. So, I mean, again, like my hopes for 2025 and beyond are as high as they've ever been because I actually feel like we have our franchise guy. It just sucks that we can't see him when we have a huge lead or when we are falling behind by 30 points. So, um,
Also, the
again,
2022 quarterback draft class is now seeing Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter, Malik Willis, and Sam Howell all traded.
yeah, it's everyone except Lawrence, right?
I
Or
think
is it that?
so.
No, that's the draft class before, isn't it?
Yeah, because that was with Trey Lance, I think,
Yeah.
and Mac Jones.
Because I was gonna say the whichever draft class had Trevor Lawrence, that I think he's the only one who hasn't been traded.
Yeah. Also, the Broncos are expected to move on from Tim Patrick if he's not traded. So, another thing.
Hmm, interesting. Alrighty then. Well, sorry to end on such a sorrowful note. Um,
Well, that's how we're not done yet.
oh yeah, that's right. Um,
Three, two, one. Lions.
Lions. All right. And then top of
Three,
conference, three,
two,
two,
one.
one, Lions.
Lions. Look up.
All right. Tune in later on this week for our last video, which should be much shorter. We're talking 10-15 minutes. Should just be some awards for players like MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, things of that nature, and some other ones that Matt came up with. So definitely stay tuned. That'll be out later this week. And then next week, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program of week one predictions.
Peace.